All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I know it's late in the day. You'll have to excuse these bright lights for doing this all the time because I can't see everybody out in the audience like I normally would. But I'm glad you're here and thank you for being here. My name is David Zeckman and I'm the president of the Zeckman Group. It's a small consulting group. Has a very difficult employee, and that's me. But I do my best with myself on that program. Today's discussion, yes, this is a healthcare tract, and I think if those of you that are in healthcare, and I'll introduce myself at the end because my whole career has been in healthcare, those who have been in healthcare know that there's still lots of innovation going on in our country, and that's a good thing. Lots of startups going on, and so some of this discussion today is going to be a little bit more geared towards leadership in startup companies. A lot of it has a healthcare bent to it, but again, it can be something that can be carried over to anything that's non-healthcare related. So that's sort of the context of it. I will probably throw some things out to you in the audience, or those that are here that I can see as we go along. In the last 10 minutes, we will have questions. So kind of be thinking about questions if you want to ask us or ask somebody up here a question at the end. I like for it to be interactive dialogue, so I hope that you'll be okay with that. Okay, with that, and you all know the title of what we're doing today, so I'm going to be asking the panelists, each of them to introduce themselves and kind of what their background is, and so you have a better feel for that.
Hi, my name is Gaurav. I'm basically a serial entrepreneur. And I have lived building companies from multiple years. I've done 4 successful startups and in mobility sector, car rental sector, and then now I'm trying to disrupt the healthcare sector. So I've done all sorts of things and good challenges, mistakes and everything, and successes. So I think it's a great one to discuss with you guys, to share my own opinions and my own experience to you all. My current company, I'm a founder and CEO of Vital Friend. It does remote monitoring of aging parents' vitals. And by, like, say, if there's a geofencing, there's fall detection, and everything using without a hardware. So glad to be here in this panel. Thank you.
Hi there. Is this?
Yep.
All right. Hi there. My name is Caitlin Locascio King. I am the co-founder. Hello?
There you go.
That one's working. That's working. All right, my name is Caitlin Locascio King. I am the co-founder of Magenta Fusion Brandworks, and we work on branding, social media, digital marketing, and website development with businesses of all shapes and sizes across the country and now internationally. In terms of this panel here, it was definitely a really exciting topic when they asked me to go on this one, because some of our favorite clients we get to work with are coming to us because of this exact topic, that they are transitioning from original founder, be it small company, spare bedroom, whatever it might mean, and now they need to transition to founder inspired. And so we work with them to change the messaging, update the branding to resonate with current customers as well as the new base.
Hi. I'll take this anyways. Hi, this is Suman Roy, and I'm from Canada, Toronto. And I'm the CEO and founder of a nonprofit organization called Feed Scarborough. We work on food security. It started literally 4 years ago in the beginning of pandemic from my backyard, and now it has got 15 full-time employees. We serve around 8,500 community members every week with access to food and livelihood. So this topic is very close to my heart because we are certainly founder-led, and we are trying to transition into founder-inspired. So it's a great topic to be.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ronnie Castillo. I'm from Costa Rica, and I work as a corporate finance and strategy advisor. And I usually work with founders to transition into financing opportunities to get the company bigger, and that's very related to this topic that we're talking today.
Thank you, everybody. My name's David Zeckman, as I mentioned again. I'm a retired hospital president, CEO. I spent 39 years in healthcare. I started at the bedside and I know the nurses left before, but I started at the bedside as an on-the-job trainee respiratory therapist, and then moved my way up through different organizations throughout the Midwest, and I served 3 different hospitals as a CEO at the end of my career. I also, one of the things that's interesting on the background for this presentation is that I was also part of a startup recently that failed. And I was the CEO of that. It was a home health agency providing home health aids. And I have some comments to make as we go through the discussion about some of the mistakes that we made, and especially some of the mistakes that our founder made. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy, but it just didn't seem to work out for us. So that's a little bit about my background. I do live in Southwest Florida, between Fort Myers and Naples. Okay, we're talking today about transitioning from founder-led to founder-inspired. And, you know, by the way, they're 2 different things, but they're also the same, if that makes sense to you. You have to have both. The question is that, you know, where do you start? So I'm going to be asking the members of the panel, and they're going to also give us they're going to answer this question for you. What is the difference between founder-led to founder-inspired? What do those 2 terms mean? Okay, Gaurav?
So every founder usually gets into this transition mode when they start. They're very much passionate about the idea. And we have done it like as many times I've done. Every new idea is a passion to do it because you're solving the big problems in the world. And so that's where you basically look at the idea and you're saying, this is basically, I'm the founder, I'm going to lead this. And you go in and you put in your effort, your stuff, and your best experience and everything. At some point in time, you got to understand that if you don't have a good team, and the people in the team are not also agreeing to the same vision that you have, or not taking the work away from you, then it will drag you down. So you got to be very clearly in your mindset, as I think, like David said, they're the same things. But when you start the company with founder inspired. Not that you're the founder, and because you're the founder, you can do whatever you want, and you can basically tell people this is how it should be. And so you get into every single part of the job. And when you do that, those startups absolutely have the higher failure rate, basically. So what you do is day one, when you come up with an idea, you have to be founder inspired right from the beginning. Because once you have that mindset, now you know you are working for the same company as everybody else is working for. You're doing a job which is a CEO job. Although you have the vision, but they also bought into the vision. So you work together, right? And this is very critical to make a successful startup in the beginning. And so this is my main suggestion would be is 1, don't do everybody's job as a founder. 2, define the exact role, even if you're the founder, what you're going to achieve. And like somebody said in the previous conference, KPIs, KPIs, KPIs. You're the founder, doesn't mean you don't have KPIs. You also got to put KPIs for yourself, day one. And that's a good startup with a good team.
Thank you. Caitlin?
I think for me, I'm going to go much more high level from a ground level perspective, if that makes any sense. To me, founder-led means that founder is in the weeds day to day. That founder is leading the company. They are in their operations. Founder-inspired means that founder is no longer in the day-to-day, but his or her DNA is still that of the company. And that is the difference for me.
Perfect.
Suman?
Thanks. I absolutely 100% agree, but the reality is, in the ground level, most of the time, as much as you want to do the right thing as Gaurav suggested, it never happens. When you are the founder, you're actually, the reality is, as much as it's not a good idea, I'm going to say this, but you are doing everything and then when you have to transition into the place where you want to be, it gets difficult. It is not easy. If, as Gaurav mentioned, if you can think from day one, the way he talked about, it's ideal. But with my experience, it doesn't happen that way in many cases. So founder-led, unfortunately, in most of the cases that I have seen or I have experienced, founder-led, unfortunately, comes first. And then when you're looking at founder-inspired, that transition is very difficult. But if you want success, that transition needs to happen. That is where you need to, as a founder, step at the 10,000 feet distance and look at the organization and say, okay, now I've inspired, I've got the DNA out there, and everybody's bought into, now how can I transition? And that's where the conversation today will lead to probably.
Ronnie?
Thank you. As a corporate finance and strategic advisor, my view is a little bit also on having the right founding in the corporate governance, so you can get your idea, into the different levels of the company. Maybe at the very beginning, you're gonna be very oriented to operations, and you're gonna be leading the company. But also, it's very important to inspire at the same time and to set the foundations in order that in some moment maybe you are gonna be in operations, maybe not. Maybe you're gonna be a general manager. Maybe you're gonna be a shareholder. Maybe your role is up to be in a board of directors. And if you don't know how to play that game, you're gonna be lost in the maze. So I think it's very important to begin. Maybe it's not that important at the beginning because the decisions is gonna be taken by the same people, but the discipline on the structure, I think, is important.
I believe, from my perspective, that you have to have a strong founder vision. Somebody who is the inspiration to start the company, because that's the one who has the ideas. And we'll be talking about whether you have a unicorn idea or not, as he shared with me the other day, which is a great topic. But I think you have to have that founder inspiration. The dilemma comes in is that when do you move from inspiration to really leading the company? And the biggest and if you're by yourself, of course, you're going to be doing everything, and that's where some of the things start. But you also have to be able to lead. You have to lead through example. You have to lead by your vision and knowledge. But most important thing, at least from my perspective, is that you must possess the skill to inspire by being a servant leader. I mean, those folks that you lead, you have to serve them, and you have to provide them the resources and the tools so that they're successful, and if they're successful, the company's going to be successful. Make sense? Anybody, how many people in this room, I'm going to do this, sorry about that, so I can see, is there any folks in here have started have a startup, have done it? Whoa, that's very good. How many are thinking about a startup? Are you guys, and we can go to the questions, but are you guys happy with what you started? You feel good about it? Successful? Well, that's always the key, on that part of it. So, again, inspiring is not just a vision, it also includes, the great ideas and the unicorn ideas. So, is the question I'm going to ask the panel again, and maybe you've already answered this, but, is founder-led and founder-inspired the same thing? And I'm going to change the order a little bit here. So I'm going to start with I'm looking at my list. I'm going to start with Suman.
No, it's not same thing, but it's also, it combines itself in few different spots. And for me, when you talk about founder-inspired, that is a great first step. It goes into founder-led, and while the founder is moving away, transitioning out, it becomes founder-inspired again. So for me, it is kind of a bell curve that we are talking about. If you can't inspire, you can't lead. And once you get to that stage and you're leading, you need to think about what is next for you or your organization, where you eventually need to pass on the baton to somebody else.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I see organizations as individual beings independent to their founders. So if you have the availability to make your company or your organization to be managed by itself and has its own life, I think that's a better way to build a company, as that's very difficult to do.
Caitlin?
I definitely think Suma and I are of the same school of thought here, that you have, founder-led, you have founder-inspired, and you have that overlap in the middle. And sometimes that overlap might take longer than you were expecting. That Venn diagram, if you will, how much they overlap can vary based off what the company is, who the founder is, all of that. But it really is a spectrum. It's a gradient to get there.
So I basically have a different point of view based on my experience. They're exactly the same thing. Why do I say that? Is because we cannot start a company single-handedly. You need to validate your idea with somebody other than your family members, other than your friends, other than people who have already drank the Kool-Aid. So the thing is that once you meet one person in your team, you're already inspiring, basically, that person to believe in your idea. And if you can't even inspire one person to believe in your idea, why are you even doing a startup at that point? You better not even start that. So you got to think about this thing. As founders, I always teach and I tell people, and I've invested in so many companies where I teach founders, I've seen they fail, they've done amazing stuff, but then they don't agree with each other, and that happens another thing, because one person wants to be the CEO, because the title matters, right? So when I say this thing is very important, title should not matter. That is where I think when someone was saying that you should be, as you're leading it, you could do anything, basically, and that's true. But that doesn't mean you're not inspiring. And then another thing is that when you get the team, at least one person in your team, you have to be the inspiration, because it's your original idea. Now 2 people's idea, now 4 people's idea, then 6, 8, and so forth. So you have to have that mindset very clearly from day one. And that is very important for startups. And I've done my own mistakes, and that's why I'm teaching from that experience.
Well, speaking of mistakes, okay, we're going to kind of launch into that a little bit. I like the word challenge better than mistakes. So I'm going to ask I'm going to ask the panel this question: what do you find is going to be the #1 challenge for a new start, moving from founder-led to founder-inspired? And there's going to be a number of things that we're going to be able to talk with you about, and would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. So I'm going to start with Caitlin on this one.
I mean, to me, the answer is letting go. I mean, that is the #1 challenge for founders. I think back to a set of clients we have. They brought us on to help them transition their branding, transition their marketing for that very reason. The founder was going to be stepping back, eventually stepping out, and the company taking over. And it wasn't going too well. He wasn't having a good time with it. And eventually, I do believe on the threat of divorce from his wife, he took a week off. He took an actual proper vacation. During that week, it was like an episode of a sitcom. Everything that could go wrong in that company went wrong. All right? From pipes bursting to manufacturing issues to website down. And this founder, when I say literally he had to be the one to office the water the plant, like he watered the plants, okay? He came back and they were all like, that's it, we're sacked, we're gone, we're done. And amazingly, he actually had this aha moment of everything went wrong and the company's still here. The company's still going. He was forced out, and that was actually the pivotal moment when he was able to start transitioning out. So I think from a founder's perspective, and I'm sure my panel here will answer from more of a company perspective, but I want to say from a founder, that biggest difficulty is starting that process.
So this is a question, this is off the script, by the way. Why do founders not want to give that up? Why do founders think that they have to do it all?
Well, either because they always have, if
Okay.
you're truly, proverbial one-man band, or maybe it's because this is their baby. Maybe they've been there from day one. If you started in the spare bedroom and you now have all these employees. I started not only in a spare bedroom, I started with a free filing cabinet we found on the side of the road. Can't make that one up. My husband power washed the rust off of it. That's how we started. My first assistant was a 4-month-old. And so when it's time to start transitioning, if you've proverbially licked every stamp for that company, that's a really hard thing to do. And you have to shift into that mindset of it's not an ending. It's a growth. It's a transition, and it can be a very good thing for you and that company.
So I definitely have a say on that one. Not the current question you asked. I have a say on that one. Then we go back to the challenge part. Yeah, we're going off the script, which is very important because you asked a very good question. So what I know is the key reason why people cannot let go as founders is they are afraid to fail. When they start a company, the pressure, the family, the winning, the whole thing that we did it, whether it's unicorn or not doesn't matter, but that piece of it is in their mind, in their heart, right? And that piece of it drives them, right? And that piece of it sometimes make them do these things that they do. But that's why you need the co-founder is so important, because the other person can say, hey, hold a break, maybe doing too much, step back, go take time off, go do this thing. That helps you to kind of get the forces right. So that's why choosing the co-founder in a startup is super, super critical. You need to have the like-minded person, and I have this rule, and I talk to my co-founder who's sitting here too, and I always say that if I cannot have cannot invite you to my home, my kids cannot play with your kids, my wife cannot know you, that's not a good co-founder. You need to know them personally, very closely, so they will help you on your strength and your weaknesses. So that's the way I say. So that's good. Your point.
Suman?
Your second question or the first question, but I'm going to do both.
Okay, do both.
Yeah. So I think it is for anybody here who has a kid and is gone to college, remember that day when they were actually leaving home to go to the college. As a founder, handing over your organization, whether you are really handing over or just taking a back seat, it is the exact same feeling. Doesn't matter what happens, maybe who's taken over is better than you and probably take this organization to be a much better organization. But you are afraid, as Gaurav mentioned too, you're scared of what the new world is going to look like. So that I think is a big thing. But when you're talking about challenges, I think there is quite a few. One of the things with most of the founders or in a startup or not-for-profit NGOs, the founder is the face of the organization for the longest term. And to make that transition from changing that face of that organization, now it is not a person anymore, it is just an organization that is a face. That I think is really tough, not only for the team, the founder, but also for the community who it's serving. So that I think it needs to be very properly planned, which initially when you're starting up, you do not even think about those things. That's not in your agenda. But in the first question, what Gaurav said, I really heard that carefully for myself as well, that if you can properly plan before you're starting up, you can do a much better job.
Ronnie?
Of course. I'm a academic guy. I went to business school, so I believe in the method, and I believe in the discipline also. And sometimes founders are experts in solving a problem, but they are not experts in developing a company. So trust the process and trust your advisors, because as you're an expert in whatever you're an expert, the advisor is an expert in what they are advising you, And it's difficult sometimes the people to overall, that challenge.
And I'll come back to the story I mentioned to you earlier to kind of summarize all those things that they said. I was part of a startup over the last year and a half in a home health agency in Southwest Florida, and our founder, who I thought was a wonderful guy, I loved his vision, and I wanted him to be wildly successful. And he asked me to be the CEO of this agency, and I said, great, I'm happy to do it. But then things started to unravel, and he made the mistake, I think, that many of my esteemed colleagues up here mentioned, in the fact that he didn't delegate. Not that I was looking for extra work, because I was retired from doing all that. But what I said I would do is I'd do whatever I could to support him. What he did was he invested his whole life savings into this. Now think about that. If you invest your whole life savings, if things don't do well, what do you usually do? You panic and sometimes leaders, when there's a crisis, they will pull everything in, okay? And that's exactly what he did. And in Point of Faith, he lost touch with the funders, and he lost track with them, and we hired a wrong manager, and I was part of that. I helped make that decision. We made a bad hire, okay? We failed. And so the company went under, which was really sad. But again, it comes back to the fact that he ended up at the end doing everything, never took time off. You guys mentioned that earlier about getting away, never took time off. Okay, it was always, and he lived in Sarasota, which is an hour and a half away, and he was always driving down every day. That doesn't work. That's not going to, in terms of the long-term vision of the company, you've got to hire the right people to help support him, and that just didn't happen. Anybody else have any comments or stories you'd like to share about that?
I would like to add the first question answer first, the challenges part, because that is very important. I tell this to people, basically, that they're going to face multiple challenges when you are a founder. the one thing you got to understand is when people say fail fast, right? Why do they say that? Is not because, hey, don't even start an idea because it's not going to go somewhere. No. What it means is don't be attached. One. Two, that do your numbers. In the end, right, whether it's a startup, whether it's a tech, whether it's a brick and mortar or something, do your numbers, do your financial modeling over and over again. And I'm in tech, and I'm telling this thing because I make sure any startup that I do, I first make sure my P&L is solid from day one. And this is very different because people say, we'll build it, they will come. Yes, I have done that also. I built my first product as a first awareness of the market about a new product that never came in the world. I did that. And I had to spend 5 years doing awareness of the market. I got so tired. I sold the company. My competitor is right now 2.8 billion, right? But I sold it way early. So as a founder, I've done my part of it, that I kept it. If I would have kept it, I would have been in some places too. So you have to be very careful in terms of, when to build it, which market to go for. And it's not bad to go try a new market that nobody has explored. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. But do your numbers well, sustain yourself, get the funding, as I think David said, is very important, right? Listen to your advisors, Ronnie said that. Funding, right, is very important. Listen to your team when something is wrong, right? There's type of things you have to do. I've done single founder, I've done with co-founders, right? Co-founder has been super easy. I say have 4 co-founders, not one. Don't be afraid to share the shares you have. These are your shares commodity, and don't think like, oh my God, this is mine 100%. 10 companies, 10% is still 100%. One company, 100% has a much higher failure rate. So you got to think about it. So challenges to me, one is don't be attached. 2, as a founder and as a CEO, if you are running as a founder, CEO, CPTO, different roles, you should always be raising money because I rather have somebody else take a risk with me than putting it all myself, even if I can sustain it, right? Get a higher valuation, right? Make sure the team that you're coming is inspiring. You're inspiring the team and they're listening to you, giving you advice. Listen to them, right? That's what the piece is. It's like listen to them. And that builds a good company and a good culture.
I have a question for the other three for this point. I'll give you a little break here. For the other 3 folks on here, talk a little bit about what you did with yours. How did you identify your market? Okay, I mean, and because you alluded to this, that if you don't identify your market, I mean, you could, again, I love your description of a great, not every idea is a unicorn idea. It may be a great idea, but maybe that's not what the market wants. So what did you all do to help identify the right market?
So with my NGO, I didn't have a choice to really think about the market or what to do. It was the beginning of pandemic. Something needed to get done, and we just jumped and did it. But as a part of our NGO, I want to talk about one part which I think will be very valuable in this conversation. My organization was the first organization in all of North America to start an online food bank.
Wow.
So this was in the very first couple of months of COVID. People were hurting, people can't go places. And I saw my wife ordering food from our local grocery store and doing a curbside pickup. So I said, if we can do it, those who can afford, why can't those who can't afford be able to do the same from the food bank? So I thought it was a brilliant idea. I had the vision. I went to my team, and my team looked at me and laughed and said, yeah, good luck. Not happening. So I said, oh, come on, let's do a survey of our clients and see if they would be interested. And out of 1,000 clients we had at that time, only 1% said, yeah, that may be a good idea. So needless to say, my team looked at me and said, yeah, good luck. So I said, you know what? As a founder, I have a veto. Yeah. I'll veto all of you, and we'll do it. Yeah. And today, 4.5 years later, it is such a popular program. People love it. A lot of people, especially in Canada, we see, do not come to food banks and places like that, though they are suffering because of the stigma of coming to the food bank. Now with this online food bank and curbside pickup, they don't have to worry about the stigma. They sit in their home or in the local library, place the order on the computer, and then just come 30 seconds, pick up and go. So sometimes having that vision and really believing in your vision and sticking to it does go a decent way.
I have a quick question for you. For those people that said they didn't like the idea, Did you fire them? Or are they still with you?
They are all with me and they love it now.
Oh, I bet they love it now, don't they? How do you like
When
that?
it's a success story.
I love that story. That was good. Well, good for you for sticking with them on that, and they stayed with you. Other comments?
I mean, you're asking the marketing person how you want to find their market.
Oh,
so
boy. Oh.
welcome to a new panel. I have hours worth of content on this. But I think it is so important to know who your market is. That is just fundamental. We were talking about that just a little while ago in the lunchroom. And when we work with businesses, we say to them, okay, who is the customer? Who is the client? Who is the whatever terminology works best? And a lot of them can really answer the question. If they can't answer the question, keep digging, keep digging, keep digging. And then I get to the point where I'm like, all right, let's build what I call your ICA, your ideal client avatar. Who is this person? And I turn it into